bigger picture issues here. I've got 3 or 4 ones lined up. Number one here, China GDP. So what if China does go ahead and raise their interest rates and lowers economic growth? I just want to point out to you guys, pretty much for the past 3 years, in fact, even more straight, we've seen general growth levels of about 9 or 10%. These are year-over-year gains, except for, of course, the dip here in late '08. But let's put this into kind of perspective. Even if China does raise their interest rates and lowers growth, it's going to go from 10% to what, maybe 8%. It's not like we're going to see actually negative growth or anything restrictive in any fashion here. So in terms of that whole economic growth story, this is not a bad, horrible piece of information once you consider the fact that, you know what, we're just going from fantastic levels. Even if they cool them, it's not that bad of an issue to speak of on as far as the growth itself here. As far as the secondary issue here, we did have news, of course, overnight that China was in negotiations to buy some Argentine corn. Here's a chart of the Argentine corn exports for the past few years. And these are all USDA numbers, including the USDA's latest for 2010, which just came out with here. And, of course, the negotiations are pretty exciting sounding at first, but general estimates range to clear Chinese customs and quarantine and all that type of approval process. It's a minimum process of anywhere from 6 months up to 2 years. So it's not like we're going to see some sales start, maybe tomorrow or by Friday for a shipment anytime soon here. So this is a longer-term issue here. There's a lot more than silence as far as the general news story. Also, what I found actually more interesting than that whole negotiation story was the fact that in the press release, the Argentine agricultural minister, he suggested that China would have as much of a 5 million metric ton import total for corn next year. That's not 5 million just from Argentina. That's 5 million total. And here's USDA's own estimates here of corn imports for China. Of course, here's last year's here at this 1.2. They're at 1.0 right now for this new crop year we're in right now. So keep in mind, this kind of puts them on the higher end of estimates. You've got those guys, the JC Intelligence group from Shanghai. They're the guys who have numbers as much as 7 million tons. Most groups are in that 1 to 5 million ton range for exports. So that China import information, it certainly is a bullish thing to speak of. And if Argentina gets some type of progress on their talks, I don't have any problem with saying that, you know what, the U.S. has a good shot of getting a good chunk of any of this extra stuff through as well. So it is a bullish story as far as the Argentine story, but keep in mind, of course, we just have to wait and see to actually get too excited on this one here. Last one is a chart I threw in here for the week comments here on Friday afternoon. Also made it up for one of the guys for one of the speeches that we're doing here next few days. CRP expiration. So a number of acres that are going to be expiring out of CRP each year. And for our 2011 planted crop, fiscal year 2010 right here, we're going to have just over 4 million acres expiring out of CRP. And you figure about half to 3/4 of those will be going directly to grain production. The other remaining 1 or so, as far as that goes, that's going to be put back into CRP. So just something interesting I thought you'd find here as well here. My main point here for the grains, obviously with this type of the fact that China did not raise interest rates overnight or over the weekend, I'm actually surprised we made such a move back up here on the corn and took back most of those gains, most of the losses from Friday.